created with the sole purpose of driving people round the bend. That was the goal of this vault. Vault 114. A rather unique case for us, as, unlike the other vaults that we have seen thus far, it was never actually finished, the evidence of which we will see inside, and was never populated. The main sections here are built, and the experiment was set, it just never got underway, which is a good thing, as we will see. Nowadays, it's inhabited by a group of mafia-like thugs called the Triggermen, led by a fat bastard ironically named Skinny Malone. Though they're not the subject of this video. It is located inside Park Street Station, and it is from here that we must rescue Nick Valentine. He opens up the rest of the vault and another entrance, as you can see in the map. Now let's take a gander. As you can see, a lot of supplies are still out in the open, so much so that even the entrance is still packed with them. The room to the right here is our first area of interest, and provides us with our first terminal, that sheds some light on the purpose of this vault. So this terminal contains a lot of confidential information on it, and the first entry is welcoming the new employees. So this vault appears to have only been constructed just before the bombs dropped, which would explain why it was never put into full use. It also involved help from outside Vault-Tec, as, to cut costs, they repurposed the subway station, and stuck the vault down here instead. As a result, they have been warned to keep the security of the vault and its experiment a secret from the contractors, which immediately tells us this was not a control vault. They then make a nice joke, followed by what I'm sure are very real threats of severe legal action. The next entry is labelled private and was for the science staff only. It was most likely not meant to be available on this terminal. It then asks anyone viewing this without the proper clearance to turn themselves in, because Vault-Tec employees, like Vault-Tec, are known for their honesty. So the residents for this vault were to be Boston's upper-class elite, whom I am sure paid quite a bit of money to get in here, and were under impression that it would be luxurious, and the only members would be wealthy like themselves. Well, the luxury was over-exaggerated. Many families will be placed in the same small apartments, and all quarters will be shared. Also, I think that non-upper-class families may have been admitted as well. They are also trying to find the most incompetent individual to run for overseer, who does not like authority. The experiment is to see how the wealthy will respond when placed in an environment without their usual luxury and authority. They then ask that nothing the overseer does be questioned, no matter how incompetent or insane it may seem. So an experiment to take the wealthy out of their comfort zones, stick them in a shithole, and see how they cope. Nice! We can find one of the lovely vault suits that they would be wearing for the rest of their natural lives, right here, still unused after all these years. The main door is locked if you have not freed Valentine, so we'll take the long way round. Down this long staircase, we will progress deeper into the vault, and we can finally begin to see how unfinished it was. Ladders are still in place, abandoned by workers. Boxes can be found piled up everywhere, and really gives us a sense of how many supplies Vault-Tec stored in these things, given that many of them would have to make it over the 2-century mark. We emerge into a large chamber, possibly an area that was meant to contain more of the vault, but was nowhere near finished. A lot of piping and waste can be found all over the place, as well as a digger in mid-lift. This suggests that, whatever state this place was in, it was left in quite a hurry by the inhabitants at the time, though it will most likely only be construction staff, Vault-Tec, contractors, or otherwise. This room tells us that the rich had no idea what was coming. A lot of safes and works of art can be found piled up. Perhaps Vault-Tec even went as far as to bring it all in here and store it, if only to annoy them more when they realized they couldn't use any of it. This hatch seems really out of place to me. I mean, why is this here? I can't imagine it was the easiest way to bring shitloads of stuff up and down. We then come to the door that will let us into Vault 114 proper. We can now find ourselves in the very small, in comparison to others we have seen anyway, atrium area of the vault, which, like other parts, was still under construction, and once again hints at how readily abandoned it was, as even things like hammers and screwdrivers were still left out, meaning that, when everything kicked off, presumably the bombs dropping, it kicked off fast in here. It also shows us some of the over-exaggerated luxuries. This Nuka-Cola machine and milk machine are the only luxury drinks to be found here, as all the other drinks seem to have brought in by the Triggermen. The cafeteria area is shared, no massive dining hall for this luxurious lot. and from the small amount of containers on display, meals would have been very lackluster, at least to those who assumed they would be getting wined and dined every day. Next area of interest is the office of the fully capable overseer. The terminal found just outside once again hints at the experiment, wherein you needed to take a number to see the overseer. It was on 997 when I arrived, and gets full after 1,000. It's full for the year. That means roughly 3 complaints a day, max, and given that this vault was not as advertised, it would most likely be a lot more. Therefore, people would constantly be in a state of not having their problems addressed, and the overseer probably wouldn't even try work through any problems anyway. The office seems to be another slap in the face to the rich, as it is actually quite nice and spacious. More space anyway than any of them are going to be getting to themselves. What I assume are the primary vault controls can be found in the back, all part of the give the idiot overseer absolute power over everything. There are many interesting things in the desk, but first up, the terminal. There is but one entry, addressed to the overseer. It tells them that they had the perfect fit for the role, and how they were highly recommended in the interview process, which we will take a look at in a minute. They are a natural leader, and should just go with their gut instinct, and it'll be all good. Now obviously they were only chosen because they were the candidate most unsuited to be a good leader. Now let's take a look at each of the 3 interview tapes for overseer candidates.
This is Vault-Tec interview number 03 for the position of overseer for Vault 114. Interview subject, Benjamin Beasley. Mr. Beasley, as overseer of Vault 114, how would you settle a disagreement between 2 of your Vault residents?
Well, I would obviously take it through the proper channels, assuming neither of their requests were against the law, of course. This is, of course, assuming that the conflict had already gone through all the other members of the Vault's Residence Council that I plan on organizing.
Vault Residence Council, you say?
Yes, of course. People need government. They yearn for it. I think it's a civic duty of every red-blooded American patriot to serve the...
Yes, I think we have everything we need here. Thank you for your time.
Oh, already? Well, I look forward to hearing from you soon.
Yes, I'm sure you will. Please make sure to fill out your non-disclosure agreement on your way out. This is Vault-Tec interview number 21 for the position of overseer for Vault 114. Interview subject, Kimberly Weiss. Hello, Mrs. Weiss.
How do you do? And may I just say what an honor it is to even be considered for the position of overseer. Ever since I was a little girl in mock government, I dreamed that one day I would have the opportunity to lead a community to greatness. My teachers all told me I had leadership potential, and without my guidance as student council vice president, those bake sales surely would have failed. Just the thought of being able to organize and run this small group, to show them a better way, to lead them to a future so bright that they...
My goodness. Looks like we're out of time.
What? We just started!
Yes. Thank you. If you could just send the next candidate in as you leave.
Oh, of course. Did I mention I was head of my debate team?
I'm sure you did. Thank you. This is Vault-Tec interview number 87 for the position of overseer for Vault 114. The candidate has refused to give his real name and has only provided the name the Soup Can Harry.
That's right. I ain't telling you nothing. My name is the name I call myself, not the rank and number the government branch on me. No, sir.
Fascinating. Mr. Soup Can, would you mind telling me why you're distrustful of the government?
I've seen what they do. Gum up the works with red tape and bureaucracy, take every hard-earned cent, and use it to fund their Illuminati, Freemason sex parties. I'm a free man. I should be able to live as I see fit. My taxes pay for them streets and alleys and dumpsters. I'll sleep where I want.
Sir, according to this, you haven't paid taxes in many years.
I seen the back of them Abraxo boxes. Not for consumption? Don't you tell me what to do. I'll eat what I want.
Sir, you may just be the perfect candidate. How would you like to be the new overseer for Vault 114?
I ain't wearing no goddamn tie. Or pants.
Now before we discuss them, we can find the speech bobblehead here that improves your bartering, which, given that the overseer of this vault was meant to be an incompetent leader, is a nice wee joke. Benjamin Beasley was the third candidate and, of the three we see, easily the best. Just not for this job. He shows a strong respect for the law and for the right of others to have a say, as he wants to arrange a council. He's a good old patriotic American boy. Now, while we don't know what training or education he has, we can at least say that he would be competent in leading one of the control vaults, though not one that requires any scientific knowledge. Interviewee 21 is Kimberly Weiss. She pulls the I'll shower them with relevant leadership stuff until I get a job trick, like many do in job interviews or university interviews. Unfortunately, she's super cringy. She has very few relevant experiences or skills in leadership, which would ordinarily be great for this vault, except she seems keen, and that, my dear Kimberly, is where you fucked up. Now for interviewee 87. I can confidently say, I would follow this man into hell itself. Soup Can Harry. He comes off as one of those free man of the land, am I being detained types, with a big dollop of mental illness, which is not something to joke about. He seems convinced that Vault-Tec is the Illuminati, and it's about the only accurate statement he gives. He is also homeless and will not be put off by safety signs. So he is chosen as the overseer. Now it fits perfectly with the experiment of this vault, but to be honest, I think him as overseer would improve any vault you put him in charge of. Soup Can Harry is a man that gets shit done. Now to take a look at the actual living accommodations, to get a good idea of how much these folks got screwed over. We can find what I assume is the personal belongings area, and everyone got a locker, one locker, into which I doubt they could fit all their belongings, which, as we've seen, Vault-Tec may have just taken away. In here we can also find the only skeleton I was able to locate, though I could have missed one. Someone either killed them and hid the body, or they hid in here for some reason and then died. I doubt it's Soup Can Harry though, as this skeleton is wearing pants. Next is the female shower area. Now okay, it's not the best, only curtains for privacy and a dirty floor to stand on. Not even a bath, so more or less what the showers in a school would be like. Not the end of the world by any means. Right? No. These were the men's showers as well. It was unisex, which given the social climate this is set in, was probably not the done thing. It's not really that widely done even now. The toilets are a bit fucking dire, I will admit. Okay, so you only have 3. But Moses Christ, really? A curtain? Not even a cubicle? At least that way, if someone wanted a wee peek, they'd have to work for it a bit. With these curtains, they don't even look like they cover the whole toilet. The only advantage I can see from this arrangement is it makes it easier for the person peeking to help you wipe. After this, we head upstairs and come to the living area. To the right, we can find the very small place where you could wash your clothes, and given the amount of people that would one day live here, this is way too small and cramped, which was surely the point. Also, as I'm sure you noticed, there are more annoying Vault-Tec motivational posters floating around this vault than usual. I think that was probably the point, and were meant to antagonize people more. We can find an issue of Awesome Tales on these containers, and then it's on to the beds. Now these beds were to serve as the living quarters for the people of the vault, and many families were to be assigned to a single room, perhaps even more than one to a bed, if you really wanted to piss them off. Which, knowing Vault-Tec, was definitely the case. The question also needs to be asked on population. If this was going to be cramped now, how would it fare in a generation or two? The point was to test how the wealthy would react when taken away from their luxury, not how people would cope when overpopulation became a problem. perhaps the unfinished sections we saw would address this. A kitchen can also be found, and in it some basic food, and even some whiskey. However, I think this was most likely brought in by the Triggermen, as I doubt this vault would provide a luxury, such as whiskey. Heading upstairs again, we come to the nursery area of the vault, the size of which once again brings up the question of what they would do when the population got too large. Also, the fact that it is so far away from some of the rooms suggests that there was a possibility, however small, that some families would be separated from their children to a certain degree. A room full of more belongings can be found here, with some decent loot to be found inside. Another example of their belongings at least being taken into the vault, even if they were never going to be given back to the people who owned them. The last few rooms may have been either for Vault Tech staff or parents with children. There isn't really any indication of which. We then head upstairs one final time and come to the reception area, where we can find a list of the people admitted to the vault, found on this little terminal here. So there are 4 groups of residents, and here is where my theory on the different classes comes into play. The first entry contains 3 families, and they all seem quite balanced, most likely functioning middle, or in this case upper class ones. A2 sees the families get a bit bigger, and we see the first infant. Also, one family had a dog, and I fully believe that Vault-Tec would wait until they were going into the vault to tell them not to bring it in. The next entry sees another large family and another infant. Now it is quite hard to tell if any of these people are not upper class. However, the last entry sees a very Irish sounding family with loads of kids, so this may be the non-elite family that Vault-Tec added in to piss off the rich. Also, Todd Gates, bachelor. The way it's included makes me think that he told them to put that down instead of just his name on its own. So this was Vault 114, advertised as a luxurious haven for the rich. It was actually all just a scam, which a few of the Triggermen actually discuss if you listen to them while they're alive. The experiment was to take the rich and elite, then put them in a vault with all the luxury stripped away. They had bad food and small beds, with more than one family to a room. The toilets and showers were unisex. There were not very many of them, and they afforded little privacy. There was limited storage space as well, along with only a small room for washing clothes. Now this vault may have been planned to be much larger, given all the hallways that are blocked off and sections that were never finished, which could mean that they would have had much more space. On the other hand, more people may have been planned to be admitted, perhaps more non-upper class families. The Overseer interview tapes show us just what they were looking for. Someone incompetent, someone who hated authority. Benjamin Beasley would not have been a good candidate in this regard, as he seemed reasonable and put a decent amount of thought into his actions. Kimberly Weiss was more in line with what they were looking for, unskilled and incompetent. But she was earnest to do the job well, so she would not be suited. No, a greater caliber of specimen was needed. Someone more than a mere man. That something was found in Soup Can Harry, the homeless and sane free man in the land that showed up for the interview and blew them all away. My only regret about this vault is that it was never populated, as I would have liked to see how it turned out, and would have loved to hear more about Soup Can Harry, and the legend that his presence here would certainly have sired. The Unaware Elite, an absolute scam, and someone who could have possibly been one of the next great legends of the Commonwealth. I hope you enjoyed our look at it. If you did like it, give the video a like, and if you want regular updates, subscribe. A shout out to Zitomer, who cannot play Fallout 4 just yet due to an injury. Our thoughts are with you. Any suggestions for lore or future videos should be left in the comments below. Better yet, go on to my subreddit, so we can discuss them in more detail. It's linked in the description. If you wish to, you can support me on Patreon, which is also linked in the description. Go have a gander at the rewards. Follow me on Twitter or Facebook to get regular updates or have a wee chat. Any business you wish to discuss, email me at thenthapple.business@gmail.com, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I hope to see you in the next one. And until then, goodbye.